So even though we haven't really done a lot with solutions in this conversation, real life interaction with other human beings and with nature might be a place to start.
Absolutely. In fact, that's one thing when I was having political meetings years ago, when people came together, great things began to happen. It was really amazing to see when you'd have a group of like-minded people come together and they started, helping each other. They started, going, having a meal with each other. They started talking about their beliefs. They started teaching and sharing ideas. They started business deals and, improving their business and their quality of life.
And that's the old 2 or more people thing. And not only is it mentioned there, but I think in the original founding documents of America and any other country that wants to go along with it, the right to assemble is considered really fundamental, and that's people coming together with each other physically.
Right, and so now in order to assemble, you need a permit, which is permission. You need a permit. You need permission from the state. One of the most intelligent people I've ever known who was involved with a political party years ago I was involved in, he actually made a statement once. I'm trying to recall how he actually said it. It'll come to me. But it's about human relationships. It's about when you break that down, essentially they're dividing and conquering.
Yeah.
And that's in part where our power lies, is having relationships with each other.
It's being broken down in education too, not just with little kids that have to sit and not say anything, and you get punished for talking to the kid at your desk next to you. But this continues all the way in a different form up through graduate school, and at PhD level, people are being taught in classes that a real discussion, which means, of course, scientific, is not saying anything you feel or think. And I'm totally in favor of emotions that come from a good place. I think cutting those off is a mistake. That's not what we were against before with the crazy aspect of emotional stuff. But in scientific approved conversations, people who are really educated are supposed to cite things they read in journals, and that's their opinion. And then the other person says, oh, really? Well, Dr. Y says this. And the other person says, well, yeah, even though Dr. X says this in this particular journal, I guess Dr. Y is right. So thanks for the good conversation. And that's how they're actually teaching you to communicate in graduate school now.
Yeah, and talking about emotionalism, the place where we're coming from is that when you let those good things flow from your heart, right? When you are going with them, those are discerned. What I mean when I say emotionalism is unabated emotionalism, undiscerned. You're just going with your emotion without thinking about it.
Like the programmed emotionalism, right?
Well, right. Because from your emotions will come both good and bad things. You'll have compassion, you'll have love for other people, but you'll also have disdain and hatred. The idea is that your mind is first saying, what emotions am I going to act upon and what emotions am I going to deny? Right. And if your brain and if your mind is not working properly, then, which is what Mercury does to you, then you don't have that level of discernment, and you become a completely emotionally responsive person, which is what I call emotionalism. Yeah. Which then emotionalistic people are the ones who are very controllable.
Yeah, exactly. And these things are tricky to put into words because they're really subtle. And I think there's another sense that people can develop that supersedes even areas that intellect can't grasp. And it's when you're asked to do something immoral, you don't have to compare it against a list of moral and immoral acts in a book somewhere. You can say, no, I won't do that because it's hurting this other person, or creating unnecessary pain and suffering or things like that. You don't have to intellectually be able to justify it. If you're healthy and wide awake, you can feel immediately that it's not a good thing to do.
Yeah, morality is written in us, in a sense. I think where
Yeah.
Most people know right and wrong. I'm not saying everybody. Maybe there are outlying exceptions, but
You know where they did this experiment? They took people off the street, and see if they would give electric shocks to somebody that would potentially kill them, but it was all for the sake of an experiment, and almost all of them did it.
Exactly, and that's why I always say use your head first. I mean, if you have bad emotions, they need to be controlled. Your head needs to be the gateway, you know.
Yeah. Well, if you're a brainwashed person, which everybody is at this point to some degree, you have to have a way to catch it and recover, hopefully.
And that's the beauty of logic and reason, is that you can see, if you can think reasonably, if you can use reason and logic, then you can look at a situation like gun control or any of these other ridiculous things that are being pushed and say, what is going to be the result of this? What do we know historically? What is the data we have? Not how do I feel about this extreme situation. It's not about how you feel about it. It's about what is going to be the result of this particular proposal.
Yeah.
And I can imagine.
And then you'll find out that it is totally logical. It's just not for the aim that they say.
Right. It's for their own.
This is
benefit.
how you disarm the population, so that only the people committing crimes and the government forces have weapons. And that leads to a total tyranny situation.
Well, and we have historic examples of that. How many times have countries disarmed their people, and then within the next 5 years, they had massacres?
Yeah, not just Germany. I mean, Cambodia and all, communist China, all kinds of places. Soviet Russia.
Exactly, and I remember what my friend said, who ran the party. He said something kind of shocking that was hard to believe until I explained it to you. He said, "Do you know it's illegal to work It's illegal to work except for two conditions in America. It's illegal to work. It's illegal to work unless you have permission from the government, or you work for someone who has permission from the government." You have to either, when you go into business, you need to have.
Oh, you mean by work? You mean get a job, right?
Yeah.
Because you can build some little thing in your house and you don't need permission for that. But if you're working,
if you sell it, you do though. If you are a business,
that's a good point. If you sell it,
you need a license.
Yeah.
Yeah, that comes down to licensing, which people lost their lives over early in this country. That they were absolutely opposed to licensing.
Licensing is amazing. People have been conditioned to think that licenses give you privileges, but they don't. Licensing makes you controllable.
That's the whole point of licensing and regulation, which is globalism. Globalism is being introduced to the public by creating problems like pollution, right? They're spraying all this stuff all over the world with jets. Just one example of their own pollution that they're releasing.
Yeah.
Then they say, "Oh, this is a global issue. All the nations must come together to regulate emissions." So this regulation through licensing is one of the ways they're bringing in globalism. And this is what we talked about earlier, Werner von Braun talked about, is that they will use these problems, asteroids, those were one of them in the alien attack, and all of these threats will be used to legitimize in the public mind global regulation. And what is regulation? It is government.
Yeah.
At least in that scenario. So that is what global government is. We're going to have a United Nations in order to protect you from the dangers that they created.
Exactly, and guarantee world peace so that everything will be good from then on.
That was one of the itemized threats, was war. It wasn't only asteroids.
Yeah, it would end war.
And pollution. It was war, that the nations will come together. Right.
And I think the updated Agenda 21 intents enumerated in Agenda 2030 that they met in New York City recently about was going to end hunger and stress and especially inequality. It's going to end inequality because everybody knows that's evil.
Mm-hmm. And so ultimately, what are the solutions, you think? You know,
The solutions according to that, or the solutions to that?
the solutions to globalism.
Well, I mean, certainly one of them is to heal yourself from your own brainwashing and heal your body so that your body and your brain work again. I think without those things, it's kind of unrealistic to think that the real solutions can be enacted when your brain's still compromised. So certainly, getting yourself healthy on all levels would be one of the prerequisites.
Think clearly, right?
Yeah, because otherwise, like everything you've been saying about logic is irrelevant, because if your brain no longer works, logic is really difficult.
Exactly. And relationships
With actual humans that aren't in a screen.
One of the things we have on our website is we try to help people learn how to talk to other people. How can you approach other people, and how can you help them open their eyes? Because your typical emotionally based human being does not want to think about globalism. They don't want to think about chemtrails. They don't want to think about pollution or about threats that are coming or about conspiracies, because it's not pleasant. So people edit themselves. So we talk about, well, how do you approach people? And I think a couple of the most powerful things you can do is, first of all, you have to be their friend. You have to gain their trust by truly being a good person towards them. You have to become a servant to them in a way. If they need some bread, if you can help them, be a friend to them.
Right.
And then your friends will begin to listen to you. And that's part of the process of establishing these relationships. And then people will start listening to you about these things. If you go shouting just shouting and being emotionalistic about these things in people's faces who don't know you, they're just going to be they're going to very easily discard you and not listen to you. So that those relationships are critical.
Well, I think it's good you brought that up, because we got a couple minutes left here, and it would be good to mention to people who are listening to this call, is that on a website, or how are you reaching people now, and what are your projects, and how can people get in touch with those?
Absolutely. Got a few websites out there, globalskywatch.com. There's a ton of information there. I get emails from people all the time who appreciate the information, and since they benefit from it, I'm sure whoever listens to this conversation will as well. Also, Orbis Vitae, it's Latin for Circle of Life, Orbis, ORBISVITAE.com. We have a lot of information there as well. Just if you want to contact us, our contact information or my contact information is on those websites, and I try to respond to emails. I'm not always able anymore because I get too many, but I do the best I can.
Okay.
And let's all have relationships again and reconnect and start to trust one another instead of being artificially induced to be afraid of each other.
Yeah, it's a great place to start, and fix your health. Learn about natural ways to do that too. I think it all ties together: your brain and the rest of your body, and your emotional state, and your ability to interact with other people. It's all really parts of one issue. So, which is why you do your radio show, right? This is why I used to do a radio show, and why I put the websites out there. Not because we mean any harm whatsoever, none whatsoever. This is to help people realize what's going on so we can fix problems that hurt people, so people can live better quality lives, live longer, and be happier when they're living their life. That's what my life is about, and I know your life is about that as well. Yeah, well, you're reminding people they're not helpless. We're being trained to think that we're dependent on teams of experts to run our lives and make every decision for us and keep us safe and tell us what to eat and drink and all that stuff, and you're not really that helpless. Everybody listening to this is an amazing, limitless, incredible being that is not the little dependent creature that government wants you to think. And get back in touch with yourself as step one. Because if
people aren't helpless?
Yeah, it's real. I know it's a conspiracy theory, but I found it to be true. And whatever, you think you're going to go out and serve everybody and love everybody, and you have all these unresolved conflicts with yourself. That's the limit to which you can take your relationships with other people. So you need to see where you need to reintegrate yourself, and it's really part of getting your health back. And then your relationships all reflect that, and they can get some depth to them, and it gets better. So
and right along the lines of you telling people about their power, why do you think they're making chemtrails invisible now? Why did they make them short, fly at high altitudes, and now there's no visible trail at all, yet they're still emitting things onto the public? They're doing that, obviously, because they want to keep it secret. But why? Because what you said is true, because the people have the power.
Right.
If you're willing to work together and be actively involved, you have the power to change it. That's why they keep this stuff secret.
Yeah.
Because if you knew what was being done, and you knew the kind of life and the kind of world that you could have without all of this stuff being done to you and injected in you and sprayed on you and otherwise exposing you to it, then you would be actively involved. You would.
So in other words, if normal came back, so if you recover from all the terrible junk that you've been trained to eat and drink and smoke and breathe and everything, and you recover from your education, and you recover from fake science and all this stuff, and you find out what normal is again, it's something really good, and you're going to like it. So, be encouraged. Start like now, whenever you want to, and get the life quality back, because it comes from inside yourself.
And be empowered by knowing that globalists keep secrets because you have the power to stop them.
Right, it's an affirmation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Sounds exciting. Well, I hope everybody goes to globalskywatch.com on the other sites, and hope you'll officially come on our show, not just in a recorded phone call in the near future.
Anytime I would love to. Sorry for all my time constraints, but
no, that's okay.
I do work more than full-time, 12 or more hours a day, so just trying to keep up.
I know. Okay, well, thanks for giving us the time, and hope the rest of your day goes great, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks both of you.
Okay, Russ. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.